This is a Windows 11 machine, and it is running what looks an awful lot like a Windows 7 start menu. That's because I've installed Start 11, and that's what I'm going to review here is a Start 11 start menu replacement from StarDock. Since it's been a long time since any of us have used Windows 7, I think we should compare them side by side so we can see how good of a match it is. So I've loaded up a VM running honest to goodness Windows 7. Can open up the start menu here, and now we can compare them side by side. You can see that StarDock's implementation is not exactly the same, just a little different in terms of gradients and such. But who cares about gradients? The real question is, functionally, how do they compare? So let's go through that a bit here. I think one of the most iconic aspects of the start menu is the All Programs menu. This looks pretty different from how it does in Windows 7, and unfortunately is missing some of the important functionality too. So it does have expanding menus like this, so you can point at a folder and see what's inside it, but you can't really do anything in here in terms of reorganization. In other words, you can't drag and drop this feedback hub into, let's say, the Windows System folder. Can rename things at least, but that's it. You can't even pin them to the start menu. You'd think that maybe under this More menu there would be an option to pin, but basically your only option is to rename. So that really limits the use of this All Programs menu. Let's compare that to a real Windows Start menu. So if we go into All Programs, we can rename things. So let's just say we wanted Windows Media Player to be just Media Player. And it's that easy. Of course, we do have to deal with this UAC nonsense, but if we hit continue, it just happens. Also, we can reorganize where things go by drag and drop. So here I've got a copy of the media player, and let's say it's an administrative tool. Admittedly, this is a nonsense example, but it's not a real install Windows 7. I don't have enough applications on here to be able to actually sort things into reasonable places. But the point is made, I can drag media player into the administrative tools, and there it goes. If you can't reorganize what's in the All Programs menu, it quickly becomes unmanageable, as is pretty obvious here. If we look at the All Programs on this fairly unelaborated installation of Windows 11 that I've got here, you can see that's already very full. And if I can't drag some of these things out of here and put them in a different place, it's pretty much useless. Now you can go into All Programs and open it in the Explorer and start moving stuff around there. But this is actually not a great thing because of the fact that about half of the things are going to be in one folder, the folder for the current user, and half of them are going to be in the other folder, the folder for all users. So it's actually pretty hard to work in this Explorer view, even though it does at least give the option of doing proper drag and drop like that. So the Windows 7 menu, the real Windows 7 menu, wins hands down here in terms of the ability to actually reorganize the All Programs menu. How about the pinned region of the Start menu? This region here. In the real Windows 7 implementation, you can just right-click on things and say Pin to Start menu, or you can do drag and drop, which is a little harder on today's touchpads, but at least it works. And of course, you can change the order that things live in the pinned region. Some of that exists in the Start 11. You can definitely rearrange things with drag and drop. But again, because there's no way to move things from here, I really feel like this ought to be under this More menu, but it just doesn't do anything. There's just no way to get there. And since there's no drag and drop, you can't get things across. Also, if you click once inside here, for instance, with a right click, and then change your mind, decide you want to click on something else, good luck. It's just going to go away, which feels very glitchy and not really encouraging mousing around and modifying things. All in all, it's a pretty disappointing implementation of All Programs. Over on this side, we have the option of putting in custom folders that can expand into their own menus or just be shortcuts. This is somewhat improved over the real Windows 7 start menu over here. The real Windows 7 menu, you can definitely have both shortcuts and expanding menus, but what goes in here is selected just from a set of checkboxes of things that Microsoft thought you might want. So you can't choose your own folders, and some of the folders have special rules. So like the games folder is hard-coded to a particular folder in the start menu, and if you open it, you'll see that it actually looks fairly non-standard. So, game providers versus games and stuff like that. So this is actually not a great version of Microsoft's implementation, a great aspect of Microsoft's implementation. So I think that StarDock did a better job with theirs here. We can just choose arbitrary folders that we want. For instance, I've chosen this one of the random folders on my hard disk, the Intel folder where there should be some drivers, but for whatever reason on this computer is empty. And then I can just put anything I want in here. And in here we get some options if we right click. Basically, it's just a file, and so we get the appropriate file menus. So we can rename and we can delete and stuff like that. Actually, I'm looking for rename and I'm not seeing it here, but we can delete. That's a weird set of choices there, guys. If we look at my folder here, let's see if it behaves differently with a folder that has files in it. Can we rename them here? Nope. No, that's okay. This is still more of an option for putting like a list of all the things you're working on or a specific set of applications or whatever. So maybe being able to rename here is not super useful, but it's still kind of a strange oversight. If we look at the actual Windows 7 implementation, rename does exist. Let's just prove it. See, rename. So on the whole, it seems like StarDock has created something that's visually impressive. It really kind of looks a lot like the Windows 7 menu. But when you drill down into it and try to actually use it, it's really lacking the flexibility that made the Windows 7 Start menu such a great power users option for launching applications. So I'm really just not that impressed. Now, you might argue that this is better than the true Windows 11 Start menu. Certainly different, but there are other third-party Start menu implementations that are better. For instance, Start All Back is a very good match to the functionality of the Windows 7 Start menu and includes much more drag and drop support and renaming support and all that kind of stuff. So while I can't say that the StarDock implementation is worthless, you might prefer it to the Windows 11 implementation. I don't think I can recommend it over other third-party tools. Maybe you're a super big StarDock fan, in which case maybe it's worth considering. There are a couple of ways in which the Start 11 implementation is also disappointing compared to Start All Back. For one thing, it doesn't completely replace the taskbar, so the taskbar has many of the limitations that the Microsoft implementation of the Windows 11 taskbar has. For instance, you can't drag it to the side if you like side taskbars like I do, like I've implemented in this Windows 7 VM. That's not an option with Start 11. One thing that is good about the Start 11 implementation is the search functionality. So just like in Windows 7, it just is limited to applications. So if I say Edge, we get the Edge application, we get some settings, and we get a couple of folders that might or might not be relevant. So I guess that's not just limited to applications. In other words, it's just limited to local results. It doesn't also spam you with web results, and especially with links to Bing search results for things that might be relevant to what you're doing. So there's a lot less product placement in this search menu, and I like that a lot better than the way that Microsoft has been perverting the search results ever since Windows 10. So in the end, StarDock's Start 11 is a valid alternative to the Windows 11 Start menu, but certainly not the best alternative to the Windows 11 Start menu. Hopefully, StarDock will make more of an effort to actually implement some of the useful functionality that's missing, because they've clearly done at least 90% of the work here. But that last 10% is just critical to it being a useful and functional implementation. So this is part of a larger set of videos I'm doing about start menu replacements and also the original Microsoft Start menus. And if you are interested in coming along for the ride, please check out the other videos in the playlist that's associated with this video. In the end, we'll look at all of the different start menus going all the way back to Windows 95. And by the time I finish, we'll all be able to check out the Windows 12 start menu, which, for all we know, is going to basically be the same as the Program Manager from Windows 3.11. Who knows, with Microsoft is kind of a mess over there, as far as I can tell. In any case, thank you for making it to the end of the video, and I'd be curious to hear your thoughts about the different options out there for program launchers in Windows in the comment section. Thank you and goodbye.